I wanted to start off today with a quick thought experiment. I'm going to put a phrase up on the screen, and I want you to pay special attention to your thoughts, your impressions, most importantly, your attitudes towards this phrase. You ready? Stay-at-home mom. Now hold on to those thoughts, but first, can we dissect this for a little bit? 4 words, stay-at-home mom, 3 of them hyphenated. They come at the beginning. They take all of the emphasis, distracting from arguably the most important word, mom. What are we doing here? Do we feel the need to somehow qualify a mom? Or are we just providing an additional description? I think this is worth testing. Now, being good business professionals, suppose you go to a networking event. You walk in, you meet someone, they're incredible. They're incredibly talented, you get their business card because you want to contact them. Turns out that you're talking to a sit-in-cubicle business analyst. Confused, as you rightly should be, you go to the bar, meet a highly successful woman. She's amazing. You get her card. She's a fly-on-planes management consultant. At the end of the night, you're grabbing a drink next to a nice but somewhat boring stay-at-desk project manager. Do you see what's happening here? These 3 words, they're hyphenated. They're in front. They get all of your attention, all of your energy, and that's the only thing that you remember. A business analyst, forget the forecasts, the analyses, the visualizations. You remember that he sits in a cubicle. And a management consultant, while it may not feel like it sometimes, they actually do more than sit on planes. And for a project manager, how many of you know a project manager that wants to be known by the fact that they stay at their desk occasionally? This qualifier that comes in front takes all of your attention from what they actually do and focuses it on a small, non-representative part of their day-to-day routine. So the fact that it acts as a descriptor, I think we can throw that out. But for stay-at-home mom, it persists. I'm going to keep using the phrase because of familiarity, but what's happening here? For stay-at-home mom, I think it persists because it's more than just a descriptor. It actually carries a judgment, positive or negative. And the thing is, this is important because our judgments inform our attitudes. Right? Think back to your attitudes from our little thought experiment. See if it matches my amateur research on this subject. Wanted to go out and figure out what is the general attitude towards stay-at-home moms. So I said stay-at-home moms are. I was curious what Google would fill in based off of common searches. I figured it has access to billions of searches per day. It's better representative than my personal network. So let's find out. Stay-at-home moms are lazy. Stay-at-home moms are annoying. Stay-at-home moms are pathetic. And my personal favorite, stay-at-home moms are, quote, the worst. I don't know what that means, but apparently they're the worst. Actually, no, forget it. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Put a question mark at the end of these. Are stay-at-home moms lazy? Are they annoying? Are they pathetic? Are they the worst? People are trying to figure this out. And I think that's important because it's reflecting some inner judgments or maybe some attitudes as well. Now, why? We come together, bridge of whys. We're here bridging Oxford, bridging Cambridge, bridging, hopefully, political ideologies, sociological ideologies, and hopefully then going forward to be able to enact meaningful change on a world-scale level. And yet, why have we marginalized and stigmatized the stay-at-home mom? When you look at societies, the most basic institution that has a high impact on the individual is the family. Families create communities. Communities create societies, which by extension create states, cities, nations, the world that we live in. There is fantastic work, and we've heard about so much great work going on today with a top-down approach. Why don't we take a bottom-up approach? Why don't we look at the stay-at-home mom and what she can do? I think there are 2 things that are getting in the way of this. First, we're going to start, because I'm an analyst, I apologize, with my absolute favorite British word, maths. This is a normal distribution. You can think of it as a really smooth histogram, right? You have all your responses from a population. On one side, you have one opinion. On the other side, you usually have the opposing opinion. And then you have the bulk of where people align along that spectrum. The majority are falling towards the center, the average, the median, in the case of a normal distribution, but also it's called the mean. There's some variation around that mean. It's a fancy word called standard deviation. I won't test you on this, don't worry. But the standard deviation actually has some cool properties to it. If you move one standard deviation away from the mean in both directions, you find 68% of a population. if you move 2 standard deviations away, so a reasonable amount of variance, but still close enough to the average, you have 95% of a population. 95% sits somewhere in here reasonably close to the center. And I think one of our problems is if we look at our news sources, if we look at our reactions to things, we sit here. When our dialogue is dominated by the extremes on both sides, notice on both sides, no side has a monopoly on being absurd. If that is what is only driving our dialogue, then we run into a situation where this center becomes a silent majority that is getting pulled in opposite directions away from what they actually believe and see on a day-to-day basis. Quick case study on this. Pew Research, this is US data, but it represents trends across the developed world, released some data in 2014. They've been studying the percentage of mothers with kids under 18 who stay at home with their children. It had been dropping since the 60s, bottomed out in 1999, but it had been on an upward trend. In 2012, it reached as high as 29%. The reaction to this was frankly predictable. Those on the right of center said, "This is amazing! A return to family values, a return to the American dream, mothers caring about their children, raising them how they should." Those left of center were devastated. Look at these poor women forced home, forced away from what they want, from their careers, from fulfillment. Both of these positions are as extreme as they are absurd. They both rest on assumptions that, when pressed, really don't make any sense. Let's look. Right of center. Every woman, given the choice, will always stay at home with her kids. Any woman who doesn't hates the American dream, hates children, and probably hates puppies too. Left of center. Any woman, every woman, given the choice, will always choose to go into the workforce. Any woman who doesn't has bowed to the patriarchy, is a traitor to the feminist movement, and really is not ambitious or qualified at all. I'm not accusing anybody here of this, by the way. I have yet to meet a single person who espouses either of those views. I've talked to a lot of people about this. It's something I find passionate. I find a lot of passion out of. It's amazing to talk to people and hear their opinions because they're here. They're in that silent majority where, apart from the dialogue that we hear throughout op-eds, throughout articles that are written around the world, they actually reside here. Notice, I'm not saying everybody's the same. People have varying interpretations of where a woman's place should be, what gender roles should be, and there is great dialogue around that. The thing is, dialogue, diversity, empathy, they happen within these bounds. If the only things that we hear are the extremes, then we stifle that dialogue. We can't bridge opposing ideas. Again, going back to Pew Research, this is something that they've been studying. There's a lot of text up here. You don't have to worry about it. Note how things are shifting. From 1994 to 2014, the average position in, again, US political parties, but it's representative of data around the world, is shifting. You're no longer staying and clustering towards the middle. You're moving apart from that. This is a generational change. One generation, and this has happened. Luckily, I don't think this is actually the case with stay-at-home moms. I think we can cut this off at the pass. So my first plea is go out there and talk. Talk to people during the break about this. Talk to your friends about this. Maybe there are some people on the extremes. I'd love to meet them and talk to them and understand how they think. The thing is, if the majority of us are in the center and we speak up, then all of a sudden that becomes news. That becomes the dialogue rather than these extremes that are pulling us apart. Now, for my second point, we're obviously going to switch by talking about dessert. I want you to imagine really quick, you go into a sweet shop and you say, "I would love a piece of cake." And the guy behind the counter says, "Wonderful, have some ice cream." You say, "Okay, no, how about some pie?" "No, have some ice cream." Fill in the blank, whatever sweet you want, you get ice cream. This is an admittedly rough analogy for what things were like pre the women's rights movements, the feminist movement. The only acceptable choice for a woman was be a stay-at-home mom, whether in society or in economics or any other institution, a woman's place was in the home. This is not correct. Let me stand on record here. This is what we should be going for, where a woman can choose whatever she wants and whatever choice, and then we therefore value her for making that independent choice. There are situations where women are forced, and we need to work with that. There are situations where women don't have these opportunities available, and we need to work with that. And I will work with anybody to make that happen. My fear is that even as we've moved away from the extreme positions, and even in our day-to-day dialogues, the narrative that we're presenting is this one. You can be anything that you want, as long as you're not a stay-at-home mom. In our zeal to promote women's choice, women's empowerment, women's ability to go out and pursue a professional career, we have stigmatized and marginalized those that make the choice to stay at home. The thing is, I think this is not, I'm not sitting here saying this is some sort of conspiracy, right? I'm not blaming anybody. This is not us coming in and saying, quick, let's get rid of those darn stay-at-home moms, I hate them. What it is we have a flawed concept of value. Anne-Marie Slaughter's done a lot of great work on this. The idea that if value is only tied to economic principles, then you're losing out on the entire picture. It's the same theory that the entire value of a corporation is captured in simply its stock price, and that's it. The thing is, if the only thing that we care about and the only thing that we hear about are those situations, those professions that create economic returns, we're unintentionally signaling something. Think about the women that you see in the news. Think about the amazing, competent women that we've seen today who are incredibly qualified that I feel humbled to share a stage with. Politicians, lawyers, professionals. How many of them receive fame because they were a mom? Not just here, but worldwide. I'm under no illusions. The headlines for the New York Times tomorrow is not going to be "Mom changes diaper." But the thing is, if the only definitions we provide of value and success are those that have a professional context to them, then we, in the words of Edwina Curie, are marginalizing and diminishing the experience of millions of people worldwide today and billions of women throughout history. The thing is, if you look at history, this is recorded history, roughly, 3000 BCE through to the present. If you operate under the assumption that women can only have an impact if they do something that generates economic value, then, with a few notable exceptions, women had no impact on history until here. I heard some laughs. I hope you think that's as absurd as I do. Women have had an amazing impact on history. It just has not been in ways that are traditionally economically valued. Now, why am I talking about this? I do not claim to be an expert at all, but I do claim to have a vested interest. These are the three most important women in my life. In the center is my wife, Aubrey, amazing Oxford scholar here, has also been a stay-at-home mom. On the left is my daughter, Joan. On the right is my daughter, Ruth. Wouldn't it be great when they grow up in a generational change if they can choose whatever they like and be valued for those choices that they make? So my calls today are simple. 1, talk about it. I think you'll be surprised. And 2, to value and respect the role of a stay-at-home mom. Thank you.